Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Conversations with Chan. So today I have with me Miss Michele Jones Galvin, and her background is extensive. And I know that you all, the current climate that we're in and everything that's going on, I just can't wait for you all to hear the amazing work that she's doing. So Miss Gavin, would you please introduce yourself?
Oh my. I'm not used to introducing myself, but I will say that I am a great, great, great grandniece of Harriet Tubman. And over the last 20 years or so, I've been working with my mom, who passed away unexpectedly in June of 2023. But our work really has centered around Harriet, her life, her times, her accomplishments. And I am ready to share all of that with you today.
That's why I wanted you to introduce yourself because it's like I'm speaking to our history. Like y'all have
Was that okay? I don't know.
yes, I have been telling everybody, oh my gosh, y'all, I'm going to interview a descendant of Harriet. So y'all don't understand. Like I'm from South Carolina, and
Oh, South
we yeah, we
Carolina.
actually my family, it was the plantation was basically the centerpiece. Everybody's like, "Oh, that's our family land," and not understanding the connection to the space was not a space of, it wasn't a happy space.
Right.
It
Well, no.
was it was where
Yeah.
our ancestors, were working, so and they
Blood, sweat, and tears.
yeah, so I really want people to understand like this is the strength your DNA has.
Yes. And I am humbled by my DNA. It clearly, and I did take the DNA test, and my gosh, it just opens up so much more information about the family and who you're connected to, and who we have the new possibility of um, working with and sharing with, and all of that. So, for me to actually be able to say that our research and our writings reflect our actual relationship with Harriet Tubman. And that is to say that after many years of looking at her life and all that was written about her, it was Aunt Harriet's youngest brother, William Henry, who gave us the clue as to how we were related to the greatest conductor of the Underground Railroad. And it was through her sister, Sophia, often called Soph, that we now know that she was my great 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 grandmother.
I'm in disbelief and I'm just excited that like it's like the living history, like I'm Geechee. I have my background as Gullah, so we have our history is passed on through word of mouth and storytelling and songs and things of that nature. So it's
Yes,
like being able to see tangible, like this is who we are, like this is what makes this so amazing for me, and so it makes me so excited was because
yes. And Chandra, what people do know is great, but it's what they don't know that can often be greater. And you say you're from South Carolina, and I was there in October of uh 24, and I was doing a book review. And that book review centered on Harriet Tubman, the Combahee River Raid, and the freedom of the Gullah Geechee people during that time. So it is quite amazing that I'm speaking to you about Harriet Tubman today, because she was such a military force during the Civil War in and around Beaufort.
yeah.
So you can feel very proud about that, and your ancestors and your family who's still there in the islands um, really need to be commended for their ability to survive and to strive and to thrive to this very day, based on the military works that were done in that area in, I believe it was 1863.
It was, and
Um,
it wasn't that long. And people need to understand the context of how long ago it
yes,
was,
yes,
and it's
yes.
people like, yeah, I just like, oh my gosh, like the excitement, because I want people to understand, like, even though there's been a push to kind of erase this part of American history,
Mhm,
it's going to take for the work to be done by everybody to keep it alive. And this is where, like, I wanted to speak to you, and I wanted, because I want it on record. I want people to understand, like, the more we talk about it, it's not going to die. People are not going to erase it, because we
mhm,
have to keep talking about it. We have to keep doing the work.
mhm. We
So,
do. And Chandra, what I'd like to add to what you're saying, because what you're talking about is really something in academic circles that's not accepted as well as it should be. And that is our tradition of having griots in our families. And those are the people that tell the stories, that continue to know the stories, that pass on our stories generation to generation to generation. And so we're dealing with a huge uh, political impasse when it comes to the president of our United States, the first in modern times to actually codify and sanction the erasure of African American history across not only the United States, but across the world.
mhm,
And a stop must come to it. And it may not be easy. It may take some time, but I think that part of the answer is to ensure that
mhm,
we, the people, do not allow the erasure. And we take whatever steps necessary to ensure that it doesn't happen. And one of the ways we know that the president and the current administration are using the uh, threat of not funding
yep,
our most precious Smithsonian institutions, our precious educational institutions, our schools, our libraries. It is a devastation, and it is really uh, evil, if I may say, because what it does is it's trying to whitewash American history. And we have a shared history here. We have a shared history with whites and blacks, and to erase all aspects of talking about slavery, talking about the disastrous outcome with Reconstruction, you know, erasing the individual histories of our African American heroes and sheroes. We must not allow it to continue. So we have to strive, we have to fight, we have to do what Aunt Harriet said, is keep going, regardless of the obstacles. And that's what I think we need to do. And part of that really has to do with making sure that we do it the same way Aunt Harriet did, with allies. She didn't do it all by herself. There was a complicated and numerous network around her for her to be able to be the leader of those freedom seekers and take them from bondage to freedom, to freedom. So, yes, it was often dangerous, it was often perilous, and she did it at the cost of her own life. But she did it, and she kept going, and she took many of our family members and ancestors right to the Canadian border and right into St. Catharines, Canada. And she is to be commended for her work on the Underground Railroad.
I just because we, when that was something that was just a blip in our history when we're being taught history here, especially in the South. I was like, this is all we know. Like, this is it. And so my dad, God rest his soul, he always used to say, you know what? There's more than just what's in the books. And so a lot of the times he was like, you need to go read. And that's what brought me, I read a lot. So it was like, that's what pushed me to learn more was because of the fraction that we were taught on in Black History Month. That's the only time we talked about, the significant members of, our history was, February, and
Hmm.
it was such a short curriculum, part of the curriculum that we only got a taste of it. And I do feel like if we knew the full breadth of everything that was going on, like even down to the rebellions on the ships and stuff like that, had we have known that at a younger age, I do think that would have sparked a lot of us, a lot of, not just Black children, but other children to realize like it's okay to fight, and it's okay to be, to fight for what's right, and also step outside what's expected.
Exactly, exactly. And again, it's about our shared heritage. If you black out or, you know, delete uh, half of it, then we don't get a chance to really know what the African American experience has been in this country, not only during slavery, but through the rest of time, right up to today. You know, the Africans have the Sankofa bird, and I don't know if you know what that is, but actually it's the Sankofa bird with its head turned towards its rear, the rear of the bird.
Mhm.
And basically, what that's saying to us as descendants of African people is that we must know what happened before with our ancestors in order to know where we're going. And to have that history erased is really disgraceful. And so, what do? We decide what we're going to do. We're going to have a plan to deactivate the supremacist assumptions around much of the administration's 100 days of uh, executive orders. And how do we do that? We do it at the local level first. We do it in our homes. We do it in our churches. We do it in our businesses. We do it with all of our community resources. We do it with our private foundations. We get together a plan of how it is that we're going to move forward. And I can't believe that without the greatest minds that we have out there, Chandra, your mind, the next person's mind, everybody's mind, that we cannot come up with a comprehensive plan to railroad, so to speak, and get out of Dodge these folks that think it's okay to destroy our heritage, our experience, our American history.
I And that's one of the things it's like, even down from women's history, like people are forgetting like she was a woman. And I know that people are like, oh, but yeah, she's a woman. Harriet Tubman was a woman, first. I mean, and it's like, do you not understand there's so many levels to the erasure? It's like women's history. Now
Yes,
it's like Black history. And it's
right.
those crucial parts of our history that were ugly.
Mhm.
You're wiping out like there's so many levels that you're trying to hide, and it's like, you know,
Well, you know, it really boils down to ignorance. I mean, and what I mean by that is not that one is uneducated. Most of these people are very educated, but it's an ignorance of what it means to provide truth to its people. It's an ignorance of what it means to provide truth to its people. And, when we go back in history and we look at, the words of Lincoln, how of the people, by the people, for the people, we have lost that connection. with this current administration. As a matter of fact, they want to do everything else but have it of the people, by the people, for the people. So we, the people
Mhm.
of America, need to stand ready to make sure that this erasure does not take place.
And I mean, I want to ask also, like, so you are in, I don't want to butcher this county in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you could pronounce it for me,
Hey, you got,
Cayuga County.
uh-huh,
Is that
uh-huh.
Native American?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, many of our counties have Native American names to them, as well as the waterways. So this was, at one time in our history, dominated by the Native Americans. And much of what we see around us, waterways, uh, natural habitats, our counties, our cities, are actually named for the Native American ways of describing them, because usually the names mean something.
Yes.
So it's a Native American description of what they thought was very important about the area.
That's what makes, because I live in Stafford, which Aquia Landing is was a part of the Underground Railroad. And I'm like, I said, if we really sat down and really took a moment and stepped back, it's like we're everywhere in this country. And I
Everywhere, everywhere. And what's so special about Cayuga, and let me just step back a moment, you know, Cayuga County, if you really think about it, was right there in Auburn, New York, was not only the home of Aunt Harriet, but when we get into understanding who she had relationships with, it comes down to family. My mother was born in Auburn. My grandmother was born in Auburn. My great grandmother was born in Auburn. My great grandmother raised her family there out of slavery. So it becomes not only an important place because it's where Aunt Harriet lived, it's where her family lived. And one of the things I want to point out right now, when you begin to connect the dots of the family history and connect the dots of her relationships within the community, many of them were abolitionists, by the way. Many of them were Quakers. Many of them were Presbyterian and other religions where they came together around freedom. She loved her land there. 7 acres of land she bought from William Seward, the Secretary of State under Lincoln. And then later on in life, she brought another 25 acres. So can you imagine the love for that land, having been born a slave on the eastern shore of Maryland, to now have 32 acres of land that she owned herself. And it became the family homestead, actually, in terms of her second husband, in terms of all of her nieces and nephews that would stay there often, that would vacation there. Um, During the fall, on those acres, she had tens and tens and tens of apple trees. And she loved those apples because in the South, where they were harvesting apples, they were not allowed to eat them. She could eat as many apples as she wanted to now. Okay.
that, it's just like full, like I'm just it's because one of the things I love learning more about where we come from as a people, and how it's impacted. Now it makes sense with how my great grandmother and how they spoke about things, and it was like it's kind of hard to really wrap your mind around being able to, you have to pick the cotton or the tobacco or all of these things, but you can't partake in it, and then also just actually not being paid, for the work that you're done or your land being taken. It's like all of these things, are were factors, but to hear that, for her to have that freedom to enjoy basically the fruits of her labor pretty much. And it's like, it shows, that it can, for someone who feels like they're like right now, who feels like their voice doesn't mean anything, their family, their existence is
Mhm,
being, reduced to nothing,
mhm,
to be
mhm,
able to hear that, it's like it gives a sense of purpose for someone.
mhm,
And this is why I think the conversations, like I love the fact that you have those conversations and, you're doing the work, that to keep it alive.
mhm, mhm. That's my job, actually, and my pleasure and my honor, to be able to continue to talk about the legacy, of Harriet Tubman. And as I said, I'm blessed to do it. I'm honored to do it, and I really love sharing her story, as we understand it, as the family members understand it, and share those other pieces of information that they may not know about her, particularly her military, leadership in the Civil War. And to tell you quite honestly, um, for her to have been a leader in the Underground Railroad, story, but also a military leader for the Union Army in the Civil War story. That's what they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know the breadth and scope of her activism.
See,
You know what I mean? You take that away. You take away Martin Luther King, you take away Rosa Parks, you take away our inventors, you take away the erasure is so, um, mean-spirited,
yeah.
and for the purpose of not allowing truth to come to light, and to want to destroy it is just unacceptable.
And oh my gosh, like, and this is what I want everyone to, when you're listening, to understand, like, it's not just, oh, they're taking these things away. We have the power to make sure it's not erased.
Mhm, mhm. We
We
do, we do. And it's all about, and I know I keep saying the word relationships, but it's about people of like mind
Mhm.
who want to center their energy and their activism around something extremely important. And this erasure is extremely important. And by the way, Chandra, we then become the voice of those who have no voice. See,
True.
that's the good thing about it. You know what I mean? And our allies are the people around us who think like we do. And we create a movement. We create a resistance movement to this kind of, um, supremacy. And it's really something I'm ready to do. And and Harry, you know, she this would she'd be at the front line of this, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't foresee, like, I would I'm just saying, like, everything, she would be a force to be reckoned with right now. I'm like, you all don't understand, like,
That's right.
a lot of gumption, as my grandma said, and like she had the fearlessness to actually go up against, everything that was set in place to stop her.
Well, let me tell you too, what she has said is that it it wasn't me, was God. She believed that her activism, her vision, her ability to do the work really came from God, to her ear and to her body and to her motion. Um, and that's what people don't understand either. They don't understand that she was totally committed to faith, totally committed to family, totally committed to fortitude, keep going. And committed to freedom. This whole thing about Aunt Harriet was all about freedom and equality. And that's what she lived her life for.
Because
And that's what has to be recognized.
it takes a lot of faith, because it's like to step out there. Like it had to be. There's no other there's no other way to describe to say, but she had faith that she was going to.
Oh, had faith in all that God would do, you know? And she did say, I reasoned this out in my mind. I have the right to two things, liberty or death. And she said she would fight to the very last of her strength, but she was bound to have one of them. And we know she lived for 92 years. So, so she got the liberty, and the rest is history, actually.
It's okay because it's like one of those things. Like I used to. I mean, I've had conversations with people. I was like, my good friend Clevon, who we had a conversation with. He's a playwright and he lives in Memphis now. And we had the conversation about, he goes, where do we get our strength from? I said, it's in our DNA. And he was like, if we think about it, we actually do have the power of those who came before us because
Yes,
without them, there would not be us.
right,
So we
right.
need to tap into that strength and stop forgetting about that. And it was like one of those moments that we were sitting in the car talking, and it was like, and it dawned on us like, wait a minute.
Exactly, exactly. You know, so much of our energies, and rightfully so, we're living today, we struggle today, we have to get through day by day, but not to know where you've come from,
Yeah.
not to know your people and who they worked for and what plantations. We may not know it right down to the address or
No.
specific location, but it's something my college professor, Dr. Peter Maluzzi, from South Africa, said. It's all about collective consciousness. We are able to understand and to remember because we are collectively connected to our ancestors. And that is so meaningful. And it really speaks to what you're talking about. Our ancestors are the ones. It was their blood, sweat, and tears. It was their toiling. It was their inability to have control over their family, with family members being sold off left and right. It's those challenges um, that everybody should know about. It should be a shared history. Our neighbors should know about what happened. And the good thing about it is we are here today to continue to progress, to continue to confront our challenges. We have been the people of survival.
I, I can't
Right?
thank you. I honestly can't thank you enough for talking to me, but also I can't thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of your family, but also it's like we take on your family, your aunt, your family as part of our family.
Yes.
But there's so many families that are existing today because of the work, because of the way that your family fought or inspired others to fight and to get to their freedom. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I will. We are. I mean, I can only speak. I can speak for me and my family. Like we're indebted to making sure we are still doing the work. Like you said, having the faith to do the work, even if it's not to that point, but also to the point of keeping our stories, our history alive, because she paved the way for us to do that.
She absolutely did. And may I just say that, about our ancestors, they would be smiling down on us right now. Because what they're saying is, there she is. There's Chandra. There's Michelle. There's this one. There's that one. And we are doing the work. And our voice is really their voice.
Yep.
And we're going to continue to do it regardless of the erasure, regardless of what folks try to do. We have been a strong people. We have survived. We will continue to strive. And it's going to be a while before they can get rid of us. So we're doing the work that needs to be done.
And it's very true. I mean, and I want to thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Oh my, I just love it. And I feel like I know you already.
I know it's like, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful thing. And then, I know you have a book out. And it's just so many things. I'm going to make sure I tag that so people can learn more and understand like it is so much more than just what we touched on today.
Yes,
And I
yes,
really want people to go visit the historic site and actually connect with the land and connect with that space because, for her to make her home, you know,
yes.
and see exactly because I can't wait to take a trip up north.
Oh, and when you do, please make sure I know.